Hey guys, so today I'd like to talk a little bit about creating a module and how you would do that. What's the best way of doing that within Sitecore and for building a solution, and then how to get that into a package and upload that into the marketplace, and to also promote that via other channels that you may want to do. So let's start with your solution. So you could, if all your things was just Sitecore items, you could theoretically just go ahead and launch a kind of a sandbox environment, create all the items, and build a package and publish that up into Sitecore's marketplace without even creating a solution. But I actually think that's not the best way to do it. Even if you are just purely building just Sitecore items, I think it's a good idea to create a GitHub repository of your changes using maybe Unicorn or something like that to just keep track of the changes that you're making. That way, if later on you decide you're going to change environments, you're going to switch to a different machine, or if you are, decide that you're going to build some sort of source control or not source control, but some sort of source for your changes, you need to make some sort of um, pipeline change, something like that, you have a source that you can do that with. So one of the things that really confused me the most when I first started building my own modules was how to build or set up the Visual Studio solution. So when you're setting up this solution, keep in mind that you're going to have a lot of items and things inside that solution that you're not necessarily going to have as part of your package. For example, if you're using TDS or you're using Unicorn to keep track of your source controlled Sitecore items, you're not going to make those, you're not going to put those as part of your package that you eventually put on the marketplace. Um, so you're going to have things that are going to be specific to the solution that you're building or the source that you're building for your package, but not necessarily going to be deployed into the marketplace or wherever. Another example would be if you were doing unit tests for your solution, those things would not be part of the package that you deploy up. I think it's a good idea to have a GitHub for your source because then other people can contribute. You can actually include in the marketplace module that you're uploading. You can have a link to the GitHub source. There's a lot of things that you can do. So let's say you have already got a solution. So we're not going to go through the actual steps to build a solution. There's really two paths you can do when doing that. You can build kind of your own custom solution with the structure that you think would be best for your package or your module that you're building. But it doesn't necessarily follow any sort of guidelines from Sitecore. The second one would be obviously use some sort of Helix implementation. So you might want to determine where your module kind of fits in terms of the foundation, feature, or project layer levels of layers inside the Helix implementation. A lot of people I've talked to have kind of two different approaches with that. So Helix, typically you might actually go ahead and since you're building something for the CMS, that you might actually build all your stuff as part of the foundation. I don't know if that necessarily always applies. It's up to you to decide on how you want to do that. If you're doing like I just built my first module for the marketplace 2 weekends ago, and this was a dynamic placeholders component that I actually talk about on my blog. This one I built as part of Foundation because it's something that all the layers are going to need to use. But if you're building something that is more of like a feature for Sitecore, you might not decide to make that as part of the foundation, but it might be more of a feature. It really depends on where you see it fitting in. One way I like to see Helix is that if you think features are going to depend on what you're building, it really probably belongs in the foundation because you might need to extend it, or those features that are being developed might need to depend on that foundational module that you built. So that's really outside of this topic, how best to build a Helix implementation. But those are the thought processes that you should keep in mind. I actually asked this question on the Stack Exchange. When building a module, what layer should it go in for Helix? And it really depends. Richard Seal said that it should probably always go into the foundation if it's something for the CMS editor or the shell. In a lot of cases, that probably makes sense, but in some situations, there are some, conditions where that might not make sense. So it really depends on what you're building. If you're not sure, uh, it's probably a good idea to go on to Slack, and there's actually a section on Helix that you can just ask those questions. It's always good to ask if you're not sure, or you can always go the wrong direction, and then by experience of building it, you'll figure out if it was really the right place or not. So let's say you have all that, and you have a solution built, and it's set up. It's either using Helix or it's using something existing with not really the structure. It doesn't really matter. I think going forward, it really probably does matter a little bit to always build Helix based solutions, just because that's what Sitecore is recommending moving forward. But what you actually use doesn't 100% really matter. So I don't think if you uploaded something to the marketplace that wasn't using Helix, I don't think it would necessarily matter. So anyway, so let's go ahead and define or show you how you would build your package for the marketplace. So you've defined a solution, and you've published those changes. You've published the Sitecore changes, whatever code changes, you have them running in some sort of environment on your local machine, some sort of sandbox that you have installed your changes to. I think it's also a good idea to test, never check inside that solution that you're building, never check in the specific version that you're building it for. I always like to use some sort of sim or something like that to set up multiple instances of a sandbox and just use this test or that solution that you've built to just test different environments. Does it work on the 8.2 update 3, the latest version as of the time of creating this video, or does it work on 8.1, 8.0, previous versions, etc. It's a good idea to just test all those environments, test at least 2 environments before you submit it to the marketplace. So once you create that package, install on other environments and make sure it works. Um, so once you have it running in the sandbox, now you can actually go ahead and create your package. To do so, I have logged in and I'm on the Launchpad, but you actually need to go back to the desktop. And once you're here, you'll click on the Start, and inside the Development Tools, you'll see that there is a Package Designer. So you can click on this option. And now you can start to define the files, the Sitecore items, and any sort of instructions that you want to provide about your package. So you might want to call this test package. Author is your own name or the name of your organization. Typically, you want to version this item. So as you create different packages, you might want to give it different versions, like 0.1, 0.1, depending on what kind of release versioning that you want to do. Publisher, you don't necessarily need to fill this information out. There's a license where you can say what the licensing details on this item are. You don't have to fill these out, obviously. Documentation, you might want to fill out if there's anything that you need to list. There's some post-step and custom attributes that you can use as well. A lot of this depends on what kind of module you've built and what kind of things it needs to know in order to be installed. Next, there's kind of where you start adding the different types of items. So first is like the project chunk where you can save this project. You're going to actually be defining this XML package file that you will use for future package creation. So if as your package evolves, as your component evolves, you're going to make changes to this XML. Um, so that's kind of what you're building. So if I click Save As, um, it's gonna give it a name of test package. And so it's just done pretty much that. So you see it's created a test package.xml. You can create a new one if you wanted. You can create an empty package or from an existing package. That's why I think it's important to maybe add that XML file into your source control. So that way you can keep track of that XML. If you go to different environments, you can pull from the existing package and already have all the definitions for it. And that way you can start making changes to an existing package. Can't seem to get that out of the way. I'll just unclick. You can open a project, so that would open an existing project if you wanted to just work from test package. And save as. So as you add additional items, you'd save those items. You can add security accounts to this package. So if you wanted to say only, this guy is added, etc. And you give each, as you define sources, you give them names. So I could just call this security accounts. And now I have a source of security accounts. If you click that item, you'll see that I've got some things selected and just some settings for that. You can also sort, you can add additional things, you can even remove the source. So that's that. Then there's the options to add things dynamically. So if you have, I have actually not run across a scenario where you want to do this, but if you have things that are added dynamically, there might be scenarios where certain items are added dynamically or files are added dynamically. When something about your script or your component builds things dynamically, you might want to use these. But I typically find myself using items statically and file statically. So if I click item statically, I can actually pick something from any database. So if yours requires something from the core, let's say it requires Internet Explorer device, not a very good example, but now you can add sub items of that, or you can just add that item. So now it's saying single from the core and this item. So you're going to go through here and add anything that you need to add that will be required for your module. So, and then you give it a name as well. So something you might want to do is if you have core changes, you could just say the source name is core and add all those core changes. You can break it down so you only have one file per source name. It's up to you how you want to define those. So now I have security counts and I have core as my sources that I have. And then you can also do file statically as well. So this will actually go to your Sitecore website folder and you can start specifying patch configs if you have any. I don't know if I do have any. I guess the example would be one. So I'd add that. If there's a data folder, anything like that, anything that's specific to installing the component. So you wouldn't necessarily want to include, let's say you have a site defined for just this example sandbox environment. You wouldn't want to necessarily include that as a site's config unless a part of your component you're adding to the marketplace includes some sort of example. But that's not typical, so I wouldn't necessarily include these typically. I would have some sort of pipelines, anything you've modified to make your component possible. Also, keep in mind you wouldn't want to add all your serialization configs either, because you don't want that to be something that will become part of somebody else's Sitecore instance. that's part of your source, not necessarily part of your module. So just something to keep in mind when you're defining these things. And I'll just give these the names of files. I mean, it really, how you define this 100% doesn't really matter. So once that's done, you will have two options: a preview, which will just give you a kind of a preview of the things that will be created. I'm gonna go back. That's the wrong button. So if I go back to desktop, I probably didn't save all those changes. So now that was the wrong option again. Package designer, and now I've lost all that. So I'll just open up that. You notice that I didn't save it after, so I've lost all the random things I generated. It doesn't matter really. You can also generate zip. This is where you'd actually create your package. This is what you're going to upload to the marketplace. So it's going to basically take the version here and your package name and create a zip file, which is fine. I'll just have it generate that. Now I can download it as well. And that's what you'd upload to, like I said, the marketplace. You can also launch Wizard to install your package, just to install it in your sandbox. Like I said previously, I would actually recommend using one instance to generate your package and then another instance to install your package. So because this instance that you're currently running already has everything defined for it, because it's using your source controlled items, you don't really want to install inside here, because you could see items that aren't in the package but are in the Sitecore instance. So you wouldn't really know if it's 100% working. Whereas if you had a separate sandbox environment where you just install the package that you're generating, you should know pretty quickly if all the things that you need are there. So that's pretty much it. So if we go, we actually see down here at the bottom is one of the packages that I was creating. I call it True Dynamic Placeholders. This is one I uploaded to the marketplace 2 weeks ago. So you created that. If you want to install it into a different sandbox environment, you can just do an installation wizard where you can select the package that you created. Last but not least is I'll go to the let's see where I got it. So the Sitecore Marketplace, you can just create an account on here. You don't have to be a certified Sitecore developer to create an account to be a part of the Sitecore Marketplace. You can be an outside developer and you're just building something because you enjoy Sitecore. Also, make sure you never check in your license file or add that as part of the package. That obviously creates issues where somebody can steal your license. So once you've created an account, you'll see that I'm logged in. You have the option to just click on contribute, which will load up this file, and it just kind of talks about what it's like to share your module. You can click on contribute now. You'll give it a name of test module or whatever you're calling your option. I guess there's already one called test module, so I'll call it test one module. Now you would upload your item. Let's see if I have a copy of a. So our test package is right here. So let's just select this. Next you would define some information about this. You would select a category for this component to show up. It's up to this website optimization. You should really specify which Sitecore instances that this component would work with. I highly recommend that you should not select 6.0 unless you've tested that the module works in that environment. I'm sure Sitecore will not accept your submission if you If you select 6.6 and then they go to install it and test it, they find that it doesn't work with 6.6. So just something to keep in mind. And then lastly, you click contribute and it will actually contribute that module to the marketplace. I don't really want to contribute this actually, so I'll go back to the module and I will end up deleting it. It's going to load up a page inside the Experience Editor where you can make additional changes. So you can actually have a page before you submit it to Sitecore to be reviewed. You can build this page out. You can add links to your source control, your GitHub repository. You should include information about who can use it, who should use it, how to use it, things like that. Who, what, where, when, how kind of information. So once all that's done, there's going to be an option to publish once the Experience Editor loads. This is a little slow, so you'll see that in a second. But you'll make all those changes, then you'll submit publish, and at that point, basically, it goes into a review process. So you can see it's created a en modules t test1 module.aspx. You can see it's kind of trying to load the Experience Editor. But you can see test1 module. It's got tags here. It's got an option to build links, provider links, and then you can also specify all this information. It's using the Experience Editor, so you can, as you would make changes to the Experience Editor for your own website, this gives you the same kind of options. So that's pretty much it for this course. This quick demo on how to upload a module to the marketplace. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to me via my LinkedIn or my Twitter account or any of my other channels. Hopefully this is a kind of a good starting point to how you would do this. I'd like to maybe do another session on how to do this as well. You can also rename the title. I didn't know you could do this. So, like for example, if we go to my profile, you'll see that my contributions. So currently, because I've submitted the dynamic placeholders I built to the marketplace, these are actually being reviewed. It seems like it's taking quite a long amount of time to do so. They probably go through a pretty extensive process to review modules to make sure they work with the versions I've specified. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. All right.